All right, let's break down a book that absolutely changed the game for millions of people when it comes to money. Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. The entire thing is built around this fascinating story of two father figures and the completely opposite advice they gave him. So let's just dive right into the core conflict. As a kid, the author was basically caught in the middle. On one side, you have his own father, who he calls his poor dad. And on the other, you have his best friend's dad, his rich dad. And as you can see, their views on money couldn't be more different.
I mean, can you imagine being a kid trying to make sense of that? Hearing two men you really look up to give you polar opposite advice about life? This clash pretty much forced the author to really think for himself, to compare these two philosophies and consciously choose a path, instead of just accepting one point of view.
Now, his poor dad, this was his actual biological father, was a brilliant guy, very highly educated, and his advice was probably what a lot of us heard growing up, right? You know, the safe route, get good grades, get a secure job, climb that corporate ladder.
But then you've got Rich Dad. And get this, he never even finished the 8th grade. He was an entrepreneur through and through. For him, risk wasn't something you avoid at all costs. No, it was something you had to learn how to manage, how to control. And this right here, this is one of the most powerful ideas in the whole book. It's all about the psychology. Poor Dad's go-to phrase was, "I can't afford it." It's a statement that just shuts your brain down, right? End of story. But Rich Dad would flip it into a question. How can I afford it? And that question, well, it forces your brain to wake up and start searching for answers. It's such a small tweak in words, but it's a massive, massive shift in your mindset.
So this huge difference in thinking leads us straight to the first major lesson from Rich Dad. And honestly, it's a pretty radical idea that goes against the fundamental reason most of us get up and go to work every day. Rich Dad's whole theory was that most people's financial lives are run by two emotions. First, there's fear. You know, that gnawing fear of not being able to pay the mortgage or the rent. That's what gets you out of bed to a job you might not even like. And then you get your paycheck, and that's when greed, or let's just call it desire, kicks in. You start dreaming about all the cool stuff you can buy.
And that cycle, get up, go to work, pay bills, repeat. That's what the book famously dubbed the rat race. It's this endless treadmill. You get a raise and you think, great, I've made it. But then you buy a nicer car or a bigger house. Your expenses creep up, and suddenly, you're even more trapped, needing that bigger paycheck just to stay afloat.
So here it is, Rich Dad's first big lesson. If you want to escape the rat race, just working harder isn't the solution. You have to totally flip the script. You have to learn how to make your money start working for you instead of you spending your entire life working for it. Okay, so how in the world do you actually do that? How do you get your money working for you? Well, it all boils down to what the book calls the single most important rule you need to know, and that's the real difference between an asset and a liability.
According to Rich Dad, it is beautifully simple. Just forget all the complicated accounting definitions. An asset is anything that puts money into your pocket. Period. End of story.
And a liability? Well, you guessed it. It's the exact opposite. It's anything that takes money out of your pocket. That's it. All that matters is which direction the cash is flowing.
And this is the critical mistake that, according to the book, almost everyone makes. We spend our lives buying liabilities, that new car, the boat, even the house we live in, and we convince ourselves they're assets. The rich, on the other hand, they focus their time, their energy, their money on one thing and one thing only, buying true, income-producing assets.
So really understanding this one simple distinction is the absolute key to escaping that rat race. It's all about watching where your money goes. Let's actually look at the patterns.
So for a person in poverty, the cash flow pattern is pretty straightforward. A paycheck comes in from a job, and it flows right back out to cover the basics: taxes, rent, food. There's just nothing left to put to work.
Now, for the middle class, the picture looks a little different, but it's still a trap. The income from their job goes to pay for liabilities. We're talking the mortgage, car payments, student loans, credit card debt. So even with a decent salary, the money is just flowing out to other people's pockets.
But then, check this out. The cash flow of the rich is a completely different story. Their income isn't coming from a 9-to-5 job. It's flowing in from their assets, things like rental properties, stock dividends, business income. That income pays their expenses, and then any money left over is used to buy, you guessed it, more assets. It becomes this powerful, self-sustaining wealth-building machine.
All right, so seeing all that, the million-dollar question becomes pretty obvious, right? How do you start building that asset column for yourself? Where do you even begin?
The book's answer isn't some complex investment strategy. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme. It's a very simple, direct, three-word command. What on earth does that mean? It means you have to separate your profession from your business. See, your profession is your day job. That's what pays the bills. But your business is your asset column. The whole idea is to use your salary from your job to buy assets that build your own business on the side. And what kind of assets are we talking about here? We're talking about things that make money for you when you're not actively working. Things like businesses you don't have to physically manage, stocks, bonds, real estate that actually brings in rent every month. Basically anything that generates cash flow independent of you trading your time for it. But you know, in the end, the book argues that your most powerful asset isn't a stock or a piece of real estate, it's your own mind, your financial intelligence. Because that's what allows you to see opportunities that other people miss. Money can come and go, right? But what you know, nobody can ever take that away from you. So maybe the real question to leave you with isn't just how can I earn more money, but instead, how am I investing in my own financial education?